Haven't you ever wondered what else is out there?
That's right folks, the wait is finally over. Tomorrow sees the premiere of the first episode of The Rings of Power in what has been a 5-year wait since Amazon bought the rights to the Tolkien universe for an eye-watering $250 million. And what better way to celebrate the launch of this new series than with video games. So today we're looking at the top 10 Lord of the Rings video games.
Get pick up! Videogames! Rush trips!
Again folks, and welcome back to a very special Lord of the Rings themed top 10. And of course with these top 10 lists, they're very subjective, so all the opinions on this video are just mine. These are my personal favourite top 10 Lord of the Rings games, so let me know in the comments down below if you agree, disagree, but please keep it civil. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5 and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, into the top 10. This first game is a bit of a wild card and it is not counted in the top 10, and that's for one specific reason. This is not a completed, finished game. It is meant to be the Lego trilogy of The Hobbit and they never did the third game. They just never did it. So you get a disc and you have first and second movies, which I enjoy. I enjoy all of the Hobbit films, okay? There, that's out of the way, we've said that. But they just never did it for the third game. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some reason for it, but I do not class this as a complete game, so it will not be in the top 10. Coming in at number 10 on this list is Lord of the Rings War in the North, and I just couldn't get on with this game too much. I think the combat is a little bit too simplified, which is a shame, as I kind of like that they've gone with a separate story, not kind of covered in the films. Like, it's an interesting story. I love the fact it's a lot more violent. That is one of the best things about this. The thing is, if you are attacking hordes of orcs with swords, there's probably going to be blood. And there is blood, there's decapitations, there's amputations in this game. But it's just the combat isn't very deep. It is a lot of button bashing, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for this game I just don't think the formula works. That's why it's quite low on the list. Coming in at number 9 is Lord of the Rings The Third Age, and I was super excited for this game. Like, a turn-based strategy game on the original Xbox in the Lord of the Rings universe. I was so psyched up for this, but I was not ready for some of the difficulty spikes in this game. This game has some of the most infuriating, regenerating health, like bullet sponge enemies I've ever known. Truth be told, I had never actually finished this game because I got stuck on the Balrog enemy. This boss was a nightmare. Like, it just sucked up tons of damage. It dealt out pretty much one-hit kills. It could wipe your party with no problem, and you literally could not pass it. Like, I had to get past this boss. I couldn't do it. That's as far as I got with the game. So sadly, can't review the entire game, but up to that point I enjoyed it, but a very frustrating game. Coming in at number 8, we have Shadow of War, the sequel to the fantastic Shadow of Mordor. But I think something kind of feels a bit amiss in this one. I don't think it's because it's more kind of the same. It doesn't have that kind of amazing standaloneness that the first game had. I also kind of feel like, even though you are kind of manipulating enemies and stuff still, it doesn't feel like you're kind of a one-man army against the forces of Mordor quite as much. And yeah, it's still an absolutely fantastic game, and if you're looking to add it to the collection, it's super cheap. Like, you can pick this up literally for under a $5, brand new. So yeah, definitely worth checking this one out if you're into Xbox or PlayStation 4 gaming.
So begins the tale of the One Ring.
What better treatment for Lord of the Rings than the Lego treatment? Take those 3 films and put them into Lego and let us explore the world of the Shire, Mordor and everywhere in between. That is some of the best bits of this game, is going between the levels and exploring. You know, it was one of the first Lego games to kind of have that little bit of exploration between levels. The levels were quite linear, so it was nice to explore and do some little side quests along the way. But I do feel this was kind of from the time when some of the Lego games were phoning it in a little bit. Some of the characters are very similar. There isn't so much like kind of difference between the characters there would be in some of the newer Lego games now, but I think it's just when they were just churning out a Lego game every 2 to 3 months. But the thing that does stick with this game is the humour, as the Lego games are always funny and some of the jokes in this are absolutely fantastic. Again, it's a nice cheap one, it's a good co-op one, pick it up. Okay, so this one may be an unpopular choice, but please hear me out. I can't see how you can go wrong with that Battlefield-style combat mixed in with a Lord of the Rings paint job. Literally, it is just all-out war, and it's just that tried and trusted kind of conquest formula of going around, capturing points, and getting enough points to play as some of the most iconic characters from the Lord of the Rings saga. When you start this game, you get to play as Sauron, and you can literally just plow through wave after wave of men, orcs and dwarves, just massacring people. Or later on, when you're going through the Shire, just literally butchering hobbits. I think this game is absolutely fantastic. It really captures some of the biggest battles of the game, and yeah, I would recommend this one. If you've heard bad things, just try it for yourself. Who knows, you might love it. Without a doubt, one of my favourite ways to play multiplayer is couch co-op, and there are very few games that are better than the Lord of the Rings The Two Towers at capturing the essence of what is couch co-op. You literally get some friends, you pick your characters, you settle in for a long evening or a weekend of co-op massacring, going through these films. This is one of the very few kind of movie tie-ins that is good. There are very few movie tie-ins that are good, and even less couch co-op games as good as this one. It is hard to find a better couch co-op game than this one. Yet somehow they managed to improve on The Two Towers with the Return of the King game. And this is the game on the Xbox, PlayStation 2 and GameCube, not the Game Boy game, because that thing is awful. This game, I feel, improved on The Two Towers in every single way. It had an increased list of characters you could play as, branching storylines, more interactive environments. This game was just everything that game was and more, and that is what you need of a sequel. And I think as a game, this is one of the best ways to kind of round off the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is pretty much co-op couch perfection. Strategy games are one of my favourite kinds of game, but there was not really any of these on the Xbox 360, so imagine my excitement when they announced back in 2006 the Battle for Middle-earth 2 on the Xbox 360. This was one of the first strategy games I ever played on the Xbox 360. I'd played them on the PC and the PS1, and oh my god, this was such a good Lord of the Rings game. You could literally amass huge armies, and it was all about the defense as well. You could build massive castles, siege weapons, you could have trolls, dragons. It was an absolutely fantastic real-time strategy game, which I think does stand up today. Yes, it may be probably better on the PC, but playing as an Xbox 360 back in the day blew my mind. They say you never forget your first, and The Lord of the Rings was my very first MMO. And this is probably because I was too tight to pay for an MMO. When this game went free to play, I put hundreds of hours into this. Probably more hours than I needed to put into it because I refused to pay anything. I remember I had to grind my levels to get a horse. I think if you paid, you could have a horse from like level 5. I think doing it for free, it was level 25, but this world was so incredible to explore, and it just kept getting bigger. As we know, The Lord of the Rings is an epic world location, and only with a game such as MMO, I think you could really get the scope and scale of this. It was just a joy to explore the world. There was always something else to see, and it just blew my mind. I don't play many MMOs at all, and this one is probably my favourite of all time. And yeah, as I said, you never forget your first, and this is an amazing game that is still going today. This game has been going for years, and it's still there, still free to play. So if you fancy losing some time in the Lord of the Rings, jump into this one. The Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor is, in my mind, the greatest Lord of the Rings game of all time. That's because it did everything a game based on a franchise should do. It expanded on the lore, just brought more things in, and the biggest thing it made, one of the best things in recent video game history, is 2 words: the Nemesis system. The number of ways you could mess with your enemies, you could infiltrate their ranks, take out their subordinates, and basically build your way up the chain to kill the commanders. And there were so many ways of doing it. It was that perfect mix of stealth and aggression and tactics. And yet, it was one of those games where even if things went wrong, if you failed to kill somebody, they killed you and came back harder. It was such a fantastic system. It was such a fresh idea in gaming, and it was perfect. It was everything a tie-in game should be, as I said, and more. Yes, it was not without flaws. The final boss is a bit of a letdown, but just exploring the world, the controls, and that Nemesis system make this, in my eyes, the best Lord of the Rings game of all time. So there we have it then, folks. Just before the Rings of Power comes to our TV screens, there is my top 10 Lord of the Rings games. But let me know in the comments down below, what would you put in your top 10 and what game would get that coveted #1 spot? But don't forget, there is new Lord of the Rings games on the way, such as the new Gollum game, which will be releasing soon. One thing you might not have noticed with this list is I didn't do a lot of very retro games. That's because I think the original Xbox was about where I played my first Lord of the Rings based game. So let me know if there's anything really retro you think I'd have missed off this list. I hope you've enjoyed this list. It's always good fun and always causes a little bit of controversy doing these top 10s. I love hearing your feedback. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.